That's what we've been battling with for 2 years now.
Next time, perhaps. Visser and LaRue were running the Roost in Class E, looking for their second win of the season. And we continue right after this.
Vehicles from ABSA, going the extra mile to get you financed.
Back with a Nissan Sugarbelt 400.
And the defending national champ Duncan Vos was certainly making a fist of it too.
Yeah, but he wasn't going to get given anything on a silver platter.
Woolridge and Schothammer were chasing for all they were worth.
And Vos's teammate, Norway's Ivar Tollefsen, was still looking for a first win in the South African series, so he wouldn't take his foot off the juice either.
But he had a right flat back. With the Eastern Cape 500 winner Mark Grenier having shed some body parts back on the road and firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, but Ollie, look at this trouble for Tollefsen and Jordan, who even trained for exactly this eventuality, a flat tyre.
And it didn't cost them more than 3 minutes, but quite a few places.
Now Berthold was next, and watch Vermeulen playing rain tennis with his race notes.
Ah, the life of a navigator in an open cockpit.
The Mickerin boys were in the groove, and for this move went into third place as Jordan and Tollefsen battled to replace that flat.
Silvot and Helberg came through next, their hidden number a testimony to some of the mud and slippery sections the competitors had already encountered.
Third in the specials was a handily placed Evan Hutchison and Achim Bergman in the motorized bat.
But roll, they were looking over their shoulders as Hunter and Alberts were doing just that, hunting.
Oh, but this wrong slot cost them valuable seconds, and in off-roading, everyone counts.
Alfie was still battling his predisposition to taking it too easy in the motorized SP.
But you have to say, it looked like he'd gotten on top of it.
Certainly, the Silverts were up 3 places and their Zarko was asking for more rough stuff. With Marsh and Groenewold just 59 seconds behind and throwing everything at it.
And still their stablemates, Whitehouse and Carlson, in the second Regent Racing Bat, applying huge doses of pressure, exactly 20 seconds off and riding hard.
But they'd also taken 1 or 2 trips in the sugarcane. Look at their extra baggage. John Moore and Tom Klaassen in their Free Spirit Chevette quietly worked their way into 8th place in the A-Class and were superlative in their all-white car with all its camouflage on it now.
So now this time it was Visser and Badenhorst who had to replace a back tyre.
While Taylor and Houghton were certainly finding their feet right above the pedals of that big Castrol Toyota.
And Arnie, their stablemates were still working feverishly.
Back at the designated service point, though, it was Vos who pulled in first, warming the cockles of the Nissan Motorsport manager Glenn Hull's heart.
Vos was all business as he clambered out and headed straight for a watch. Any timepiece to check on time, and this 50-minute break before they would tackle the Eastern Loop over 120-odd kilometers.
Yeah, everything's fine, no problems so far, car's good, there's no hiccups, everything is perfect so far. No punctures, nothing, the car's great, so we just got to keep it together. I don't know where the guys are behind us, but we're going well.
Duncan obviously in racing mode, and the mask was on.
The Ford camp were visibly relieved when their Top Gun Woolridge brought her home next, exactly 4 minutes behind. The local man revelled in the conditions, albeit with caution.
Nice, tough technical route. I was, I don't know, just feeling a bit tentative today. I don't know why. In this first loop, just want to make sure we didn't get any punches or anything like that. And then this last loop, I think we made up a little bit of time, and then I made a silly mistake, and I went right off into the cane. So we battled to get out of the cane a little bit, so I think we've lost a bit more time. But the main thing is the car's fine, there's no problems. We know what to expect now for the second lap, and we'll go again.
And the top 3 was rounded out by Grenier and Birken, who brought the white, red and green SP home 9 minutes behind.
We had a bit of a rocky start this morning. We went out a straight piece of road in the grass. Somehow picked up a puncture, I'm not sure where, but we got the puncture changed and got going again, and then we picked up a fuel pressure problem. and it kept cutting out. So it seems to have fixed itself miraculously. But we're pushing, so we'll see. We need to come back with some points. That's the plan.
Berthold and Vermeulen were the first special home at the halfway stage of the Nissan Sugarbelt 400 and had a ball out there.
It's going well. A couple of guys went off the road of the SP buckies. We started 7th, just behind all of them. 2 of them are gone. I think one of them was Tollefson, and the other one were Chris Visser went off the road, and another one was standing next to the road changing tires. So we're going well. I think we're leading far. We're just keeping the pace and see if we can get to the end now. End of the first section, so we must do the same road again so that we've done this morning. I think we can give it a clap.
Hutchison and Bergman arrived next, just more than a minute behind in the first of the Motorride Stables cars. And then Alfie Cox drove into DSP right behind his teammate. There were lots of casualties out there.
Not too eventful though. We've just sat in the same position. Quite a few people have broken down. Unfortunately, in the beginning of the second loop, our steering shaft seemed to be coming loose in my hands. I was pulling out of the dash, so it was a bit of a concern. So we had to back off a bit and try and push it in. So my arms are a little bit sore. But the car's still good, and 1 lap to go. I think we're still in third. Well, who knows where we are with the corrected time. But we're still in the same place we started this morning. So far, so good.
Cox knows the terrain, but was still surprised by how rough it was.
Typical Sugarbelt, you know, it's getting rough now as we get along, but a great race. I mean, we had a puncture where Hannes took his wheel off this morning, and you know, we lost a couple of minutes doing it, so we've had to play catch up. But 2 laps to go, the car feels strong, and I'm just going to bring it to the end.
A more positive man you've never met. Meanwhile, this is what's known as running repairs.
But when you're running too fast, you can get into trouble, as Mark Ferguson found out.
It was about 40 or 50 k's in, and we passed Terence Marsh, and then we wrong slotted, and we got in a tight forest section, and in the dust we came up to a very tight corner, and it turned 90 left, and we took it too tight, and it just kicked the car on its roof.
And can you still keep it going?
Sure, we're on our way now.
Another very positive thinker. As for Tollefson and Jordan, there was some rocking and rolling going on out there.
Actually, Arnie, it's more like rolling than rocking.
Okay, well, you tell them that.
The story is we rolled.
How did it happen, Ivan?
Driver's fault, didn't see the curve and went on the outside and thought I had it, and then we flipped.
All right, now you've lost a lot of time. Can it all be fixed in time?
Yes, the car is nice, but we had the tow rope in the door which we were lying on, so we couldn't get it out until we borrowed a rope from someone else. Otherwise, we could have been there 20 minutes ago. So, car is no damage, just the pride.
At least Ivar is honest. Anthony Taylor was even more forthcoming.
You know, it's off-road. I ran out of road first, and then I ran out of talent and put it on its lid. What can I do? No, it was quite a slow roll. It was about the first one over here, just leaving the DSP, was at about 20 k's an hour. Went a little bit sideways, got into a ditch, and it flipped onto its lid. Actually, just onto its side. And then the second one was about 20 k's from the end. It was a long sweeping corner, about 70 k's an hour. It wasn't that fast. And I went a little bit wide to miss a rock, and the back wheel got in down the sloot where the cane was, and it basically just dragged me across into the cane, and I didn't have anywhere to go. So there also, that was the second one, unfortunately. So yeah, it's the first time in my life that I've actually rolled a race car. It happens, it was bound to happen at some time, and they're going to put a new screen in now, and we'll carry on going.
And that's in a career which almost spans 25 years. Krobler had his own trouble.
Yeah, we in about 10 kilos in the first section. We got to like a rocky patch, and when we hit it, something broke in the front suspension, and the whole suspension came off in the front, and we had to do MacGyver tricks there to fix it again. And but we're going, and the guys are just making sure that the thing doesn't come off again and damage the car more. So we'll see after they finish, they've fixed it now. Then we're going to give it a go to the end.
It was a race of attrition. After all, the Nissan Sugarbelt 400 has a reputation for exactly that.
We struggled with handling, and we came in and we checked the tow in, and when we stopped, we checked for bolts and everything, and on the lower control arm, one main bolt sheared, and that is what happened, and that threw out the handling on the car. And we just discovered it before we left, so it's quite a good thing. We wouldn't have made the next lap.
After the West Loop then, it was Voss and Pitchford enjoying a 4-minute gap over Woolwich and Schulthammer, while prologue winner Cronje and Birkin were back in contention after a long stop.
And in the specials, it was Berthold and Vermeulen who were being chased by Sugarbelt and Helberg, with Hutchison and Bergman right in the thick of things. The racing continues right after this.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA. Going off the beaten finance from ABSA. Overcoming all obstacles.
Now at the front of the 2008 Nissan Sugarbelt 400, the third race in the ABSA Off-Road Championship, Duncan Voss and Ralph Pitchford were in control and shooting for a second win in just 3 races.
And looking well set to do it too, Woolwich and Schulthammer here.
That's after admitting to some tentative driving with throwing caution to the wind in the Ford Ranger almost 5 minutes back.
With Cronje and Birkin producing a great fight back after dropping down to 5th before their fuel pressure problem cured itself miraculously.
Some pretty useful stuff. Berthold and Vermeulen were producing the drive of the day for the specials and showed that their prologue form could be reproduced on the road as well.
With Herman Sugarbelt and Paul Helberg in their Zarko Magnum with its huge Chevy engine, were applying great pressure all the time, just 92 seconds behind now.
And now Hutchinson and Bergman in turn were just 25 seconds back and knew they had to race for dear life to pull it back.
Alberts and Hunter in turn were even closer, just 13 seconds behind and pushing the Raptor back for all it was worth.
Now sandwiched in between all these specials, it was Cox and Testeja who also decided to just go hell for leather.
The De Brains head into the viewfinder next, giving the Micron Excel dealer team SP a full go on the Western Loop.
In 4th place in the specials, it was the father and son combination of Cully and Quinton Sulvold who were steady and quick.
And then Whitehouse and Carlson. Very steady and also very fast.
While the free spirit of Moore and Klaassen surprised and delighted the spectators, the privateers were giving some big-name teams a real run for their money.
Still rounding out the top 10. But for Duncan Voss and Ralph Pitchford, it was make or break time. They were leading by a fairly healthy margin.
Now, of course, the challenge is to find the balance between sensible racing and holding on to that lead.
Exactly. The dust was becoming a serious problem too as the route became churned up and chasing was tough.
It certainly was, and as you can see, this shot confirms it. You need to overtake, but the dust affects visibility so much that it can be silly to overtake at the wrong place.
It's all about timing, but that's what sport and motor racing is all about.
And the Castrol Toyota here on a very solid diet of dust. Caution's the watchword.
Berthold had done a great job of looking after the Atlas Copco Porter, yet getting a lot out of it.
Yes, indeed, while 2-time champion Hutchinson is a master at driving right on the edge, but not over it, at least not often.
The Hunter-Alberts combination have been together for many a season, and it shows. They trust each other, and in car, it works.
And as for the Barkhazens, George and Sharon, and that proposition, well, they've no choice. They're married.
Quite clearly, Rold, you speak from experience, and that's what was behind the Rubicon Toyota, Shamir Variawa and Siegfried Rousseau. But after their earlier dramas, they were a long way behind the leading A-class cars.
Lots of experience. Now, Arnie, while Whitehouse and Carlson had put together a great first half of the last loop, and they'd gone by Marsh and Groenewald.
But unfortunately, their teammate Marsh had broken down.
Little unfortunate. Now, Moore and Klaassen were doing an outstanding job in 6th place in the specials.
The Sulvold-Helberg combination were on their own mission to stay in the top 3, and they were heading that way with great rapidity.
Is that a word? Rapidity.
Yes.
Anyway, Arnie, Class P leader, the Adenko bat of the brothers Bezuidenhout, in complete control with a big time gap.
Collie and Quinton Silvart were holding their station in the Zarko, 5th in the special category.
Visser and Badenost were desperately trying to pick up a few places after their flat.
And were indeed doing just that. The Toyota faithful loved it. With single pilot Paul Bailey leading, the second Nissan was on its way.
Tollefsen and Jordan were way down in 32nd overall at one stage. But the Norwegian mountaineer and businessman was in a mean mood and just kept plugging away.
He's a man who drives very aggressively, but at the same time knows how to nurse the car home. Young Cry and Tito Vogt were leading Class B, but by a massive 16 minutes, they just had to keep it upright to win.
With Ferguson and West 7th in the SP class after a very eventful day in the cockpit.
Thompson and Blakey were still going strong too, and after their blast in the prologue were second in Class P. It was a fine drive from the two Dons.
They've certainly had a great day. Now, Corvus van Tonda and Rian Guelco were at 6th in the SP class, and with the finish approaching, were all business.
And with their double rolls damage clear to see, Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton were piloting their Toyota back to the paddock, going quickly at the same time. They were back up into 9th.
The second place Class B car belonged to Simon Beckett and Stephen Harris, who were 16 minutes behind.
And in Class C, it was Yanni Visser and Jops Leroux in their Hilux, who had just more than 10 minutes worth of breathing space.
Over this crew, Jack Peckham and Lucio Santoro in the Ford Ranger, who had slipped a few places on the run into the line.
The Buckhuizens were rock solid in their KZN campaign and kept the Rokon Toyota flag flying.
Yeah, Arnie, and spare a thought for Brandon Harkis and Richard Leake, who raced like mad for a finish even after their disaster so early on and took 9th place.
That is admirable. Well, Gil Nel and Dion de Kock were second in Class B in the Luke Zarko Truggy.
And in Class E, the third place was taken by a jubilant Dion Fenter and Ian Palmer in the 4x4 Mega World entry.
Minus some bodywork, but who cares? In the D class, Labuschagne and Gerber had no equals and were almost a half an hour ahead of their nearest challengers,
who just happened to be Christian de Ploy and Henk van Vuren in their Toyota Hilux. Yo, I tell you what a battler this man is. Hannes Grobler with Johan Moore kept plugging away to score some valuable championship points in the Nissan.
And while the Nissan fans held their arms aloft here,
they were doing the same at the finish line.
A superb drive from Duncan Voss with Ralph Pitchford at his usual pinpoint accurate best, and a 6-minute victory for the Nissan Navara crew.
Fantastic stuff. It was congratulations all round as the next car, the Ford Ranger SP of Woolridge and Schultheimer, came home. They were well beaten in second place.
It was a really important win for us. You know, we got a bit of a hiding in the last race, so it was important for us to have a good day, and we worked hard, we tested, we tried to identify where we were maybe a little bit slow, and we worked on those areas, and the pressure was on to have a good result, and luckily it all came together today.
And what about Hannes?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. He broke something on the first loop, which caused him, I think, an hour and a half delay to fix the problem, and he started just behind me on the road. So yeah, he hasn't had a good day, but you know, overall Nissan have had a good day, but you know, he'll definitely come back from that.
Cronje had his ups and downs and took third, but Woolridge was keeping his eyes wide open.
Yeah, look, a very close race in the SP class. The way it is now, you can't even blink and someone passes you. So it was very close racing, and I think we lost a little bit of time on the first loop this morning. maybe I was a bit too tentative with it being wet, and with the new tyres I wasn't 100% sure of them, and we kind of like lost that minute, and we were never able to make up that minute again. So kind of like kept the gap like that most of the day, and yeah, that's pretty much it. But it was a great event. The car was perfect, and no problems at all.
Grenier and the Ford team had a huge battle, and the Dust probably won. As it was, they were 89 seconds back.
While other racers were just starting their second loop.
Yeah, we had a great race with Neil. It was a good scrap right through to the end. We had a bit of a problem in the morning. We got a flat wheel, and yeah, it put us a bit behind, but we managed to catch up nicely, and then got stuck in the dust, and then it was a hack from there, because you just can't see. There's just no way you can take any chances, and we decided that you know, the points are worth more than you know, the haste. So we decided to just get it to the end.
And now it all comes down to points on the championship log, doesn't it?
Look, I don't know exactly, but it's still very close. And at the end of the day, if you don't finish, I mean, the points jump from there is huge. So you've got to consistently finish. And you know, in past history, you don't necessarily have to win every event, but you have to consistently finish, and that's what brings the championship around. So we've got to carry on focusing on that and make sure that comes around for us.
In Class E, there was a big battle.
Ja, ons het baie lekker gery. Ons het hom gejaag die hele dag, maar ons kon hom nie vang op die tyd nie. En toe ons uitgaan by die service, toe sy tyd nog dieselfde voor as wat hy nou vanoggend weggespring het. En so halfpad in die tweede lap, en toe kry ons hom, toe staan hy langs die pad. Toe werk hy iets aan die bak, ek weet nie wat was fout nie. En so het ons maar die hele dag, toe het hy weer reggekom, en hy het ons die hele dag gejaag. Gelukkig het ons geen probleme gehad nie. Ons het nooit uit die bakkie uitgeklim nie, so ons het lekker aan gehad vir die dag.
The production car winner, a clear 6-minute win for the Nissan pairing. And that makes it 2 out of 3 for the Japanese manufacturer. But there were 4 Toyotas in the top 10, giving them the manufacturer's award.
And that big victory gave Vos the lead in his championship defense by 6 points. It's going to be a huge dogfight with Hannes Grobler lurking there as well.
It was a huge day for the other Japanese manufacturer Toyota, who have a narrow 9-point lead over Nissan in this battle, while Berthold was happy to be back in the winner's circle.
Tough day of racing. It was close racing. At no stage did they allow us to get a gap and just take it easy. We had to race the whole way to the line. But I must say, Atlas Copco have been fantastic, and really the people around me that have made the difference. I haven't changed much myself, but my mechanic, Kenny Veringer, has made a big difference, and having the 2 Parker brothers as a backup crew has just been phenomenal. It's just really made a lot of difference to the team.
Hutchison and Bergman pushed hard, but were almost 2 minutes behind.
A great result would have been first. Unfortunately, we took second place. I think it was close. I think we ended up about 30 seconds behind Gary. Unfortunately, we had a few little problems with our power steering, and we tried to push, but the harder we pushed, the more the problem sort of came to us. So we had to settle for second. Yeah, I'm happy with the second. It's the first time we finished the race this year, so it's a few points in the bag, and we're going to have to put a whole lot more points in the bag before we can be competitive for the rest of the year. But yeah, happy with it.
A huge win for the Atlas Copco team, while Motorite will be happy to score opening points with Hutchison and Bergman. Moore and Klaassen surprised all in Sunday with a fine 4th place.
What that does, however, mean is that the Silvalts have been installed at the top of the special championship log, with Marsh and Groenewald 4 points back. Berthold's win was worth gold in the title chase.
And it was a fine day for Nissan and Atlas Copco. The table has been set for some great racing ahead. There are still 5 dates you should jot down.
The Toyota 1000 Desert Race in the middle of June is our next date.
Following that, we're at Sun City.
And then Polokwane.
But until next time,
you keep it on the road.
And we'll keep it off-road.
That was the ultimate test, the ABSA Off-Road Championship. Now fast track.